So, good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm sitting Omar Lowe, and this is Open Tech Convo. Today, we're going to be talking about leadership in tech, what's necessary. So we got you some hot leaders from the globe. We got Olay, Ceesay, Jabbi, and we got Rahmatech, Jallow, and Malik will be joining us shortly right now, in a bit. So what I'll do, as usual, is we will allow the panelists to introduce themselves. And then from there, we will open the floor to some Q&A, and that will guide discussion. If there are no questions, I have questions. If the panelists have questions, they have first dibs. Participants have questions, ask away. So I'll just be a back burner. I'll be on the bench, and I'll come in as needed. So hopefully we'll have a good conversation and we'll learn a little bit from each other, or a lot. Just depends on how open we're about learning. So I will go ahead and just let, people are still coming in. I will go ahead. Normally I go with alphabetical order, so O is going to have to be first. And then we'll go with R in the introductions. And then since Malik's not here, whenever he comes in, we'll introduce him and then get him on board. Just a disclaimer, Rahmatullah is not in a position to turn on her camera, so we have excused her. So maybe during the program, she'll get a picture, post it, and then I'll focus her, I'll pin her, spotlight her, so that it could be, she can stay in the spotlight. So, but until then, she'll be hiding amongst the participants, and we'll allow it. All right. Well, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Is it me? Am I the one next, or who's going next?
No, you're first.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Sure. Thanks for the invitation, Celine. First of all, this is a awesome opportunity, and I'm glad that you invited me to this great event. Excited to be here to share about leadership, what you need to success. Basically the success factors to be a leadership in tech. My name is Olay Jabbi, or Olay Ceesay Jabbi. I'm currently based in the US. I'm of course Gambian, probably like most of you guys here on the panel. But I've lived in the US probably, I would say, more than half of my life. I came here like right after graduating from high school. So I'll probably say US and Gambia are both home for me. In terms of things about me, I live actually in Las Vegas, which I guess a lot of people know it as like the Sin City, or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I don't gamble, so just want to put that out there. I came, like I said, I came in the US after graduating from high school, so I went here for college. My degree was in computer science engineering. And I used to live in Texas, and that's kind of like where I went to school, and then eventually moved to Vegas because of work. I currently work for a financial institution called Barclays. And basically what I do at Barclays currently is like the VP of strategy and chief of staff. And what that basically means in terms of chief of staff, I'm sure some of you guys have watched movies about like chief of staff, but mostly like in the government. But it's kind of like a new role in the corporate industry. But basically, you're pretty much involved in everything. Pretty much like anything that does not have a home in the company kind of like falls like on me and my team. I enjoy it because it's pretty challenging. Like there's never a dull moment. You never do probably the same thing in the same week. There's always something that's challenging. Prior to Barclays, I've worked for multiple other companies. I've worked for like a startup company, which is like an e-commerce company. I've worked for the airline industry as well. And of course, living in Vegas, of course, I have to work for kind of like the entertainment. Oh, okay, I thought I had somebody. But living in Vegas, of course, I had to work for like the casino industries as well. But like I said, I do not gamble, and working at the, I have stories to tell actually about working in the casino. But that's kind of like about it from a professional perspective. From a personal perspective, I'm married. I have 3 beautiful kids, 2 girls, and the last one is a boy. He's the youngest, but he thinks he kind of ruled the house. So he keeps us on our feet. So that's, I think that's pretty much about me.
Oh, thank you so much. That was lovely. That was lovely. Enjoyed it. And now you've opened yourself for questions because you've said quite a few interesting nuggets. So yeah, we'll get back to that. Rahmatullah, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and I see that we have Malik in the crowd as well, so we'll have him introduce himself.
Sorry guys, I'm here.
It's all right. It's all right. It's okay.
Hi, Malik.
Hey, Malik.
Okay, so about me, I am kind of boring, not like Olay. I moved to the States when I was in high school. So I went to high school here and I went to college here and I moved around a lot. I'm sort of a nomad. So I moved to many different states. I'm in Los Angeles now in California, and I really love it here. So I don't see myself moving anywhere else unless I move out of the United States. So so that's that. But I'm in cybersecurity. Similar to Olay, I went to school for computer science and computer information systems, and I'm in cybersecurity. I kind of just landed in cybersecurity. It was computer science was never really something I wanted to do. It kind of came to my plate by accident. So here I am today. It was probably the best accident that ever happened to me. But yeah, 10 years later, I'm still in cybersecurity. I started out in network engineering and then moved my way up to cyber. So, and I'm not really into management too much because I'm more of a really hands-on kind of person. I'm really nerdy when it comes to computers in general. I really love to do things with my hands. So because of that, I just try not to be in management. The things that I normally do is all hands-on, all ethical hacking, all intrusion detection, and just anything that has to do with cybersecurity. And basically, I do application security, network security, information security, like all of cybersecurity, basically. And I have a programming background, so I tend to play the role between the developers and the technical people in general, because of, I can usually read from a developer's perspective. So I tend to be the liaison between the security folks and the developers. So because I have been doing consulting work for so long, also I use a lot of different tools, so that helps me stand out. So I normally take big projects as far as, building cybersecurity departments from scratch and things like that. So usually I do a lot of lead roles, even though I'm not in management, but mainly lead roles because of, I've been in cybersecurity for so long now. So Yeah, basically going from company to company is very interesting. Right now I work for Hulu. When I started there, they really didn't have a vulnerability management department per se. So I had to build that department from the ground up. And let me tell you, when I first got in there and I did all my tests to see, what's missing, what needs to be put in place and things like that, I thought I was bamboozled into the job because I ended up with 108 million critical vulnerabilities. And I was like, what is this? It was really crazy. So having to build that program from the ground up, and being that Hulu is kind of a newer company, it was like, like implementing new standards and new procedures into place. It was a huge challenge. But within 1 year, I was able to build a program up from the ground, and now it's going smoothly, thank goodness. But yeah, all of my projects have been a lot of challenges. So yeah, throw the questions at me when it comes to cybersecurity. But yeah, so that's basically my background. Yeah.
Thank you, Ramu. Appreciate you. And yes, again, nice description of all the things we can ask you. So you ready? Thanks for sharing. Quite interesting. Quite an interesting journey. We got Malik with us now, so I'll let him introduce himself before we open up the Q&A.
Hey, first of all, I apologize for being late. I'm good. Okay. So I am calling in from Gambia today, so my internet might not be top notch as usual, but if it lags a little bit, just let me know, then I can try to see if I can switch to a different connection. But so far it's good.
You're looking too fresh, man. You're looking too fresh.
What a stressful day. Anyway, so my name is Malik Khan. I am the founder of PointClick. Most people know me, from PointClick and Disruptive Lab here in the Gambia. I am Gambian, but I moved to the US when I was 15 years old. So many years ago. So I've been in the US for about 27 years. Then back in 2018, we decided to expand into Africa and into Europe. So now we have an office in Spain, in Gambia, and we still have our office in India, where we have most of our engineers. So we basically focus on cloud services with a focus on cybersecurity. So a lot of the companies that we serve today are enterprise companies within the US, publicly traded, and some not public, private companies as well, where we focus a bit on compliance, whether they need to be SOC 2, SOC 1, but mainly SOC 2 type compliance, HIPAA compliance as well, and some of those things. So we help them make sure that the infrastructure is well secured for that. So I've been running the company since 2007 in a leadership role. And we actually recently launched a new startup. It's a cybersecurity focused startup, because I feel for cybersecurity it's very difficult to implement because there's so many moving parts, where there's so many different platforms as well. You have vulnerability platforms, you have GRC platforms, which is governance, risk, and compliance. So a lot of these things where when you go to one platform, you have to find another vendor to kind of solve that problem. So what we are trying to build is an end-to-end platform where you go from assessments to compliance. But not only that, you have a platform where you can continuously monitor the most important aspects of cybersecurity, which is your assets. And assets is not just your computers or your servers. Assets also means your people and the applications that they're actually using, plus the processes that they actually implement to access some of this information. So the platform is really bringing all of that together. That way you don't never lose track of the issues that are happening. If you think of cybersecurity, most of the recent ransomware that you're hearing, it's probably somebody that clicked on an email. So why do we not spend a lot of time on the actual person, the individual, to really assess that individual? What is their risk score, right? What is the risk score of you that we've given you access to our systems? We're giving you access to a computer, but have we given you the knowledge that you really require to not click on a clickbait type of email, something like that. So our platform is really focusing on the actual people that caused these attacks in the first place, and try to mitigate that from that end. And then, you know, you have the platform to continue to monitor them on a whatever frequency you want, whether it's every 90 days or every 180 days or annually. You always know the status of the individuals. So, you know, that's pretty much some of the things that we're doing in the realm of cybersecurity and what I do for day to day. We also started the Disruptive Lab as part of Innovate Gambia, where we are trying to also, you know, just help with digital transformation within Gambia. So these are all things that we can discuss as we go through the Q&A.
Thank you, Malik. All righty. So, quick question. So the topic today is leadership. So this goes to all three panelists, right? And the question is just like the title. So in your opinion, for leading, you know, in your leadership roles in your various tech fields, what do you think is necessary?
I'll give the ladies a stab first. Maybe Olay or Rahma.
Sorry, I was having some battery issues. The laptop is about to die, but I'm charging it. Can you come again, please? What was the...
Okay, so the question really is the title of today's webinar. So okay. Leadership in your various fields in tech. So what's necessary for success? How, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. To me, the way I look at leadership, I think force is like universally, instead of just aligning it to tech at force, because in terms, there's like some basic principles that apply like worldwide. Like it does not matter what type of profession that you are, whether it's tech or whether it's in finance. There's some key basic skills that everybody has to have as a leader. But of course, there's some things that just like from a cultural perspective, there's some cultural things that you have to be aware of, like when doing business from, let's say, from the US, and probably Malik may know more about that, like doing business in Africa versus doing business in US. There's some cultural norms that you have to adapt to. So I think from a leadership perspective too, that's how I kind of see it. There's some universal things which across the board, it applies to every leader. For example, like the respect, like everybody wants to be respected, and it's like how you treat people, that's the same thing. The same way that you want to be treated, that's how other people want to be treated. It's all about like showing up, but like not just in your words, but actually also showing up in your actions as well. So those are like universal things, I think, from a leadership perspective. From a tech perspective, like I mentioned, in terms of like cultural norms, there's some things that are like specific to the culture or whatnot. So from a leadership perspective too, there's some things like as a tech leader, you have to be kind of like cognizant of. And like from my perspective, the most, I think, critical piece was being actually a tech person initially before I even get to a leadership role. So I started my career as a software engineer tester. So I used to like test codes and like find like bugs in codes, etc., and run automation testing and all of that. So that's kind of like, so I was able to kind of already be able to be in a understand all the technical nitty-gritties, etc. And as I moved, as my career moved up, that kind of like helped me a lot, because like when I'm talking to like the technical folks, they understand that, okay, I do have the technical knowledge and the background. And also not just that, being a woman, a Black woman, and an immigrant with an accent, right? So trying to like go into a room with full of technical geeks, I have to kind of like have like a ground to stand on, that I know my stuff and I know what I'm talking about. So I think from that perspective, that's kind of like one of the most important things that I've seen, is that I came from a tech world and I kind of like know the lingo. I did my time, I think, around that prior to actually just moving like into a leadership role.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Some questions came to my mind, but we'll let everybody answer, and then we'll continue. We'll come back. Thank you.
Sure.
I think we'll let Malik go. He'll be sandwiched.
So for me, like in terms of leadership in tech, one word comes to mind, and that word is commitment. And that's commitment in different areas. And the most important area that you really need to make a commitment is, if you're going to be a leader, is you have to be committed to making other people's problems your problem, because you're going to be leading people. And no matter what or how you try, the people that you lead, they're going to have personal issues. They're going to have issues on the job. And at the end of the day, you have to be committed to own those issues and not take it personally, and be willing to lead them out of them. It's like, you know, one of the things I love about the way Christians get married, when they stand there next to each other and face to face, and they kind of make that oath, right? For rich or for poor, or for good health or for bad, we'll be there together forever. That is, if you want to be successful in tech, that's the kind of commitment you have to make to yourself. I'm going to be committed to learning, right? To, like she said, I've sat in boardrooms with, I'm the only Black guy to pitch. Like, for example, when we were doing the NFL, you know, NFL was one of our customers. I flew to New York. At the time, we had only 500 customers that we were hosting. And these big companies came in. I was like, dang, how am I going to win this thing? And it was like 4 companies. I was the only Black. I was like this young Black kid in 2012. I was like, you know what? I know more than they do, because I was committed to make sure that I always know more than my competitors in whatever realm it is. So you have to be willing to educate yourself and be there. So when you show up, you bring it. And when I received that call 2 days later, oh, PointClick has been selected, I was like, how? But I knew that, we came and brought it in there. But those are some of the things that you, as a leader, you have to just be committed to education. You have to be committed to lead. You have to be committed to problems that you're going to face in the don't like ball up and cry and okay, this is not for me. So these are all things I think if you want to be a good leader in tech, you have to just make that commitment to where no matter what happens, whether it's good days, bad days, especially in technology, this stuff breaks all the time. When tech works, it's great, but when it breaks, it's like painful, right? It's like my business, it works great, but when servers go down and customers are calling, you're like, oh, why am I in this business? But you can go for 2 years without issues. So, these are some of the things for me. I think just making sure that if you want to be in a tech leader, a good one, make a commitment that you're going to be there when things are good, when things are bad. You're going to be there when you have to stay up at night and learn some new code or whatever it is that you have to do, but you have to stick through it and be the best that you can be for the people that you're going to lead. So that's my response for now.
Thank you for now. It's coming back. Right. So let's move on to Ramu. Ramu, if you don't mind sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, so for me, communications is a big one. I feel like communication is an ingredient to every success in life, right? So just as effective, like the more effective your communication is, the better it will help you in life in general. So for cybersecurity and anything in tech in general, communications is a huge deal. You have to learn and like how to deal with management. You have to learn how to deal with non-technical people. You have to learn how to deal with technical people. Like you have to be able to break things down into a non-technical way so that folks that are not very technical can understand without feeling some type of way, right? So communications is a big deal, like storytelling, like especially with cybersecurity, whatever you are dealing with, you have to be excellent in writing, storytelling, just general interpersonal skills in general, you have to be able to understand what these clients are looking for. You have to be able to speak and think and and just be able to go straight to the point and, deliver what they are looking for without, like going around the bush with anything. And so communications is a huge deal in general. The technical skills, the technical leadership skills in cybersecurity, there's a lot of them, but honestly, the soft skills that people tend to omit and forget, those are really, really important. Like for me, humility is a big one too, right? Dealing with somebody in a leadership role, if the person is not humble, like I'm speaking from a point where being a lead engineer, where I have to deal with leadership, I have to deal with management, but I also have to deal with the people on the lower end of the spectrum. So it's like, people tell me things why they don't want to talk to CISOs, or they don't want to, get certain level of management involved. But these are the people that really make or break the company, right? So leadership is not, sometimes, when you are not humble enough to be able to communicate with the people on the lower end, it makes it really difficult to do certain things. So humility is a big deal. Just like anything in life, humility is a really, really big deal as well. The technical skill sets, attention to detail is such a big deal in cybersecurity, tech in general. You have to be able to pick out those points that many people are missing, especially when it comes to cybersecurity. You don't want to miss a little bit of detail that can cost the company, right? So you have to have really good attention to detail. You have to be willing to learn. You have to have that niche of, that hunger in you, like I want to learn, just like Malik was saying. If you don't have that thing in you where you just want to learn, you just want to be ahead of the game, that can be problematic. So that's another big thing that you have to have. The eagerness to just learn, because technology in general is moving at a really, really fast pace. So you have to be able to keep up. Like, get a lab at home, play with all the different technologies that just came out, dump all this stuff in like your sandboxes and play with them and see what the different things you can do. That's what helps you get ahead of the game. Just stay focused on like everything, and try to communicate with other people within tech to see, because not everyone can have all the skill sets, right? So you have to be able to have that group of people where you can communicate with them to find out what's going on, where they, like what's hot in technology, where maybe certain things that you don't understand, where they can help you build your skill sets and things like that. But yeah, those are some of the key skill sets for me.
Thank you, Ramu. Appreciate that. Okay, we got a lot of good information shared, and the participants want to ask questions. So I'll allow them to get their questions across. I'll also review the chat to see if anyone has written anything in the chat. The only message we had so far was from B. Barry, who says, hello, everyone. So we have a question from Harriet coming. She has a hand up. So Harriet, feel free. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being on this panel today and sharing your insights on leadership. I guess my question is, as Black people in tech, I think we've all experienced certain uncomfortable situations. And I guess to a certain extent, you can extend that to like people in general. But could you describe some uncomfortable situations you've been in where you've had to go against, like, let's say your own leadership or your own client base or customer base, something that put you at risk, and how you handle that as a leader.
It's spicy. That's Harriet from Netflix.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a movie of this question.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at this one. I think we recently had a conversation about this where, like for me in the US, I never really, like when I first moved to the US, I didn't know what racism was, because growing up in Gambia, you know, we thought of everything of, you know, the white people, right? We're like, oh, you know, this they everything. So I never really knew what racism was. And I kind of, when I realized that this was happening, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of maintain that. So I never go into situations to where I always looked at, I'm the only Black guy in the room, or I have a disadvantage because of this, or this person is looking at me because of my color or because of the way I talk. And I think that has helped me, because usually when you go and find situations that's maybe not even there, which I made that mistake once. I was doing a pitch from some guys in Alabama for a big credit union. I left that that meeting and I was like, there's no way I'm going to win that one. Those guys are from Alabama, you know, and I know what happens in Alabama, right? And I think it was a week later, we received the information that we won the bid. And till today, we're hosting that customer. Till today, this credit union is still with us. And after that day, I was like, you know what? I will never beat myself up like that again, to where I'm going to think that I'm at a disadvantage because of my color or because of what maybe a certain area of a region of a country or area is known for. So for that, I can't really answer the question that you're asking of what was a situation where I felt that way and how I reacted to it, because I always blocked it. Even when I'm driving my car and people always say, "Oh, you pulled me over because I'm Black." I've been pulled over, but it's because I probably did something wrong, but not just, you know, or hey, we're just gonna pull you over, because I always thought, you know, yes, I'm driving my car, I'm Black, yes, but I didn't do anything wrong. So, you know, so I think at the end of the day, it just depends on you as an individual and how you view the outside world, on how you would pick up on those things and how to react to it. But I've never really had to kind of put myself at risk or the company at risk because I was trying to defend my race or anything like that. Just because it's something I always block out to. If I lose this, it's just because I didn't show up with the credibility that I needed or with the experience that I needed. And I always feel like it's a level playing game. So that's like my comment on that particular piece. Maybe somebody else has a
So I
story
need to clarify my question. My question was not about race. My question was, certainly as Black people, we are always in uncomfortable situations when we're in leadership. But in general, how, as a leader, have you ever been placed in a position to where you were at risk and potentially go against your leadership, right? But you knew you were right, or you felt like you were doing the right thing? Because oftentimes leaders are placed in that position. So,
but you mean as a Black person, right? So it is about race. Is it different for if I was a white person?
No, let's say no.
Okay. So is the question about being Black as a race, or is it just as an individual?
As a leader,
okay.
Right? And as a person in a position of leadership, have you ever had to do something, right, that went against your leadership, your client base, your customer base, something that put you at risk?
Yeah, for me, I would have to say no. I always stick to my values, no matter what it is, always. And I'll give you an example. We had issues where one point where we had a bunch of failures in our servers. This was a year after we started the company. Every day we were getting the service provider that we were using, they were not paying their bills, so the data center will cut off the service for 5 straight days, and then every single day they will be down for like 4 hours. So it was either tell them, okay, as a leader, I'm just going to tell them maybe it was a routing issue, or it was some firewall or some power issues. but I never did that. I'm like, I would never lie to my customers about anything. I told them the truth from day one when it happened. This is what's going on. The service provider we use, what they didn't pay their bills. And for all 5 days, I was able to stick to the same story because it was the same issue. So I think as a leader, no matter what the situation is, you should always follow your principles and never go against it. And I always follow that. And to be honest with you, when Olay said running a business in the US and running a business in Africa, like that doesn't really work well. Just the culture here, you have to kind of reverse that. Here, they don't like honesty too much. That principle of I'm going to do it by the book, it really doesn't work well here. So, but till today, 3 years we've been here, I'm still sticking to it. We've lost deals because I keep sticking to that same deal because I'm like, if I'm going to make it here, I'm going to make it the way that I can sleep at night, that I feel like everybody's protected, that I never go against my value or my leadership skills in how I approach things. So for me, I've never had to do that because I always felt like, if you have principles and standards, you should always stick to them. So as a leader, you should never break that if for money or for whatever else.
I will go a little bit deeper into her question because my experience is a little bit different than yours, Malik. So I came from Gambia straight to Houghton, Michigan, where it's like Upper Michigan in the UP, right? So I was the only Black girl in my graduation class out of 800 students. So my experience is a little bit different than Malik because I have faced racism, bluntly, like right to my face kind of thing, right? So for me, I always had that in the back of my mind because of my experience growing up in this country. Because I have been called names, I have been like, taken away from projects. People didn't want to share projects with me because of the color of my skin or just because of the country of my origin and things like that. So I always had to work twice as hard, as a Black person. I always had to work twice as hard as a woman. And as a woman in tech, I think actually it's harder for women in general than it is for men when it comes to just being recognized, being getting, your skill set accepted, and just knowing that you are in this position because of your skill set, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the color of your skin or the country of your origin or your accent or anything like that. I think in general for women, because I have talked to a lot of men, and I'm usually the only female in my field or in a project, or a lot of times I'm like a minority in like a subgroup of minorities, right? So yeah, my experience is a little bit different. I've had situations where people will generally think that I am either Spanish or I am a person of another origin, and then they find out I'm a Black woman. So all of a sudden, they will put that wall where it's just like, I have to like really prove myself, right? Because I'm handling this project, I'm taking care of this project, and I'm usually the youngest person or the only person of color and things like that. So I have to bring in a lot to that table. I found myself in a lot of situations where I have to work much harder than everybody else just to prove myself. And then once I prove myself, then it's a different story, right? But for me to get to that point of proving myself is always a challenge. I always keep that in the back of my mind. Hey, I have to work twice as hard. So let's do it. It's just natural for me to just bring that. So yeah, I guess it's a little bit different depending on your upbringing and like the type of people that you are dealing with. I also have a tech company called Rahmatech, which is like based on cybersecurity in general. So having a tech company I feel like it's a little bit different because they need your services in that sense. But if you are working for a different company where you are the leader for that group or that team or whatever, they feel like they have more options to work with other people, right? So it's more of a challenge. I noticed that it's more of a challenge than just being a client with my own company. It's more of a challenge as a consultant than it is running a cybersecurity company. So, yeah.
All right, I'll jump in here. This is a very interesting conversation, and as I guess all of us know, like race is something that's pretty prevalent discussions. As probably maybe most of you will see, like in LinkedIn, like there's like all these diversity directors just popping up because companies need to somewhat create some type of a diversity, or at least be educated in terms of diversity. Like from my point, in terms of back to the question around race, and also have I been ever put into, I guess, a position where I kind of have to defend my values. I will answer the question in twofold. So the first one is around kind of like my experience, like Malik and Khadija, sorry, Malik and Rahma has kind of like has described their experiences, and I think we all like living in the U.S. or other part that are like outside of Africa, probably most of us have faced some type of maybe racism or discrimination or any of those type of things. So for me, I think it actually started like even from college, like before I even get to work. I remember the first time like I went to the computer engineering class, and not showing my age, but this was like a long time ago, right? And I think maybe there was I think one black person, probably like in the whole, I mean like all the three different computer classes, not just my class. And of course it was a guy, I think a Nigerian guy. There was barely any women in the class, and of course I walked here like skinny African lady coming in, and I remember the teacher was like, "I'm sorry, I think you're in the wrong class." And I was like, "Excuse me?" She was like, "This is the," I think it was like the architecture or whatever, I forgot whatever the class was. But he was like, "Yeah, actually it was digital logic, some weird class." He was like, "This is the digital logic class. I think you're in the wrong class." I was like, "Excuse me?" He was like, "Yeah, are you looking for," I don't know, he named like another class. It was like, "That's like next door." A lot of people kind of like mix up the classes. I was like, "No, I'm registered for this program." And then he looked at me, he was like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yes, I am sure." And at that moment, like it didn't really click. I think it was like years after that this kind of like clicked that, oh, actually that's kind of like racial profiling. Right? At that moment, I was just like, okay, I don't know what this like old white guy is talking about in my head as well. So, and kind of like Malik said, like in Gambia, like we didn't really face racism. Like I didn't know there was like this thing called racism. And probably like it's years after when I start looking back about like how maybe people responded or say some things, that's when I started like, oh, that was actually like racism. Like I really didn't like understand like pretty much like what that meant. But like let's say for like years later, I was working for this airline, and basically that was the time that kind of like I figured, okay, I've been doing like the engineering stuff for so long. I want to like start kind of like moving like to a leadership role or to a different role. And when I looked up kind of like, okay, how do I navigate from being like very, very technical to like the management side of things, the easiest way was to go into like project management, because like with project management, you learn like a lot of soft skills, and then you lead projects, and then from there on you can like move forward. And I remember when I went to like the leadership team at that point and kind of like voiced like, okay, these are my aspirations, this is where I want to go. And like from early on, I always have kind of like a vision in terms of, in 1 year, this is where I want to go. In 2 years, this is where I want to go. In 3 years, so kind of like a roadmap, right? Basically, it's like, just like when you're traveling, you have to kind of, if like, for example, if I'm going to take a trip to the Gambia, I have to come up with like my plan in terms of how do I really get basically the end in mind, right? So throughout my life, I always have like the end in mind. It's like, okay, in 5 years, this is kind of like where I want to go. So working backwards, how do I get there? And at that point, I didn't really have a mentor. I didn't even understand about the mentorship and all of that stuff. That came like years later. So when I went and spoke to my leadership team, I remember there was this lady, and we really had like a really good relationship because I used to get the work done. And as probably most of us know, like as Africans, we like extremely hardworking, and knowing that we have like a disadvantage of being Black, being a woman, or whatever the criteria is, we tend to go above and beyond and work extremely hard. And so she was like, well, I don't think that's like a career path that you should take. I think with your personality and your skill sets, I think you better being kind of like in engineering, because like I'm more of an introvert, of course. And she's like, that kind of like fits your skill sets. And I'm thinking, like, who's this lady to tell me what I can and cannot do, right? You cannot like limit my abilities, right? You don't know like how I got here, like all the way from the Gambia. So I don't think you really can like tell me like the sky is not the sky is the limit. And so basically I took it upon myself and I spoke to different people and I made that leap. Number one, I guess she probably like galvanized all the people to kind of like work against me, because she genuinely felt like I should be like in engineering and not try to kind of like go like the management route. So of course she did like everything that she could to kind of like sabotage that, but I still got the role. But I faced like a lot of like backlash, and at that point, I don't really think it was just all about like racism. At that point, it was also about kind of like gender. The gender thing was like playing into it, and then of course it was like the being Black. It was like, oh, we can't expect you to go in front and like give updates or provide like overview on like critical projects, because you should be like behind the computer. It's not that there's anything wrong with being behind the computer, but at that point, that's not what I wanted to do. So from that point of view, I think kind of like all of that, like the racism, the gender biasness, like all of that was playing against me. And needless to say, I think being there, like looking back, there were things too that I knew that I could have done better, because I think when I was transitioning from an engineer, I thought that the skill sets are going to be easily transferable, like going into like a leadership or like a project management, which requires like more soft skills. And I found out the hard way that it did not. But I took that on myself, and I improved my craft. But they were like other things in terms of like, okay, people will always tell you, like, they would just look at you and kind of try to tell you what you can and cannot do, right? So I try like not to limit myself in that way. And needless to say, probably like after like a year or so, I was probably like almost, it was more like, I guess, an ultimatum in terms of, okay, we think you're really good here. Like, because when I left that department, they were like suffering, and they were like, we need you to get back to this and kind of like continue what you were doing, or we'll give you like a severance package. Basically, you can like resign. I was like, I'm taking the severance package like all day long, right? So I took the severance package and I moved to another company, and I never looked back on that experience. But that's kind of like all about like the learning and like moving up. You're gonna like face challenges, and those challenges can easily turn into opportunities, because I'm probably sure that if I stay at that company, or if I just decided to take the easy way and say, okay, I'm just gonna go back to like what they're saying that I'm good at, and I'm just gonna stick there, I probably will not be kind of like where I am today. So I had to like take some sacrifices. It was not easy, because I put in a lot of time and efforts, but at the end of the day, it's like just looking at kind of like where you want to be. So the other question around, have we been placed in like a scenario where you kind of like have to defend your values? Not able to name, of course, companies, but yeah, work in a company where basically I was leading a project, and we needed to get the project out, because like every time that we delay the project, it was, let's say, millions and millions of dollars that it was costing the company. But because of the there was some issues where, and this was, I cannot even talk about like the industry of the company, but it's like a industry where if they were able to deploy this piece of the project, it can cost like lives, pretty much. It's not just about like software, but it can cost like lives, right? And so I kind of put a proposal in terms of like why we should not do this. And of course, I got a lot of backlash. And I ended up taking it all the way to, this was kind of like, it's not like a private company, but like the owner of the company was also the CEO. So I kind of like went all the way to the CEO and kind of laid out the plan that, hey, I understand what you're trying to do, because like every day we delay this project, this is like the cost of delay. Maybe it's costing like $1 million. But can you look at the other side too? If we deploy this project and something goes wrong, and you're talking about like a plane full of people, and if something happens and there's a loss of life, okay, let's say you're getting $10 million, but okay, can you look at like the loss of lives, the legal ramification that's going to come of this, and also the company might actually just even tank. So it was a very difficult conversation, but like sometimes you do have to, but you have to kind of be cognizant of, okay, what is going to be the backlash, because the person can just say, hey, like I don't really care, like okay, you out of here, right? Because you like trying to like block something that I'm really trying to do. So it's up to you sometimes, like Malik said, like there's going to be like cost to it, but it's like, okay, does the benefit outweighs the cost, and do you want to just take that, and whatever comes with it comes with it. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Very insightful answers. Harriet, are you satisfied? Was that good enough insight?
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I bet you have different perspectives now. Yeah, it's 4 minutes past the hour. So at this point in the webinar, of course, I always like to give the panelists an opportunity. If you have somewhere to be, I promised you I would only take 1 hour of your time. I've taken an hour 5. So if you need to be somewhere, you can, say your closing remarks, and we'll miss you, but we'll bring you back. If not, if you're not in a hurry, we can take it to for another 25 minutes. And then at 1/2 the hour, we'll call it a day. So if that sounds okay, we'll go to 1/2 the hour. If not, if anyone has to leave or is in a rush to be somewhere or has some important things to do, just let me know. Harriet, of course, has just messaged that she has to drop off. Thanks a lot, Harriet, for dropping by and asking your good question. But as I said, the video of this recording will be shared on the YouTube channel for this channel conversation. So I'll post that in the chat afterwards, so someone can, so everyone can have access to that. So does anyone else need to drop off for any reason?
Yeah, I can stick around for about another 10-15 minutes. Then I have to.
Okay, great. Yeah. Cool. So whenever it's time for you to drop off, just maybe say 1 or 2 things, and then that should be okay. We have a question from Muhammad Aliu. So if Muhammad Aliu, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lowe. Jerejef Koto. This is really a very, very interesting session, and we are really learning a lot. Thank you for giving us this. The only question that I have, considering really my background when it comes to investment in the Gambia, and also when it comes to technology in the Gambia, I just want to ask the panelists, have they been able to do investments or partnership with some of the tech companies in the Gambia, really to support them, because a lot of knowledge is lacking when it comes to tech in Gambia, and more so investments as well. So you see a lot of young companies that are emerging, but you see that the runway on tech is not really very well understood. Currently, I am at the Gambia Angel Investors Network. We don't really have anyone who is specifically dealing with technology, and that is making it very difficult for us to even, put a lot of interest in investing into tech companies. So this is my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malik,
anyone?
for that. Right, Malik?
Yeah. I mean, like, my answer is going to be a little different for you, Mohammed, because I've been on the ground. I think there are three things that's really holding us back in terms of some of the tech entrepreneurs here. And that is pride, ego, and trust. As Gambians, we have a lot of pride and ego. So, and I mean that in a way of, I think some of these companies, especially some of the ones that are maybe a little bit established, not the ones that are just getting started, they feel a bit too prideful to even reach out to a company that's really successful in other regions of the world to at least collaborate or even have a meeting and discuss. This is at least my experience here. The other aspect also is, they feel like they can't trust. Maybe they can't trust us, or they can't. I don't know. But that's, for me, that is my view, and I think it's a sentiment that I kind of share with others, especially those from the diaspora that come in and try to assist in the area of tech. There's just a lot of pride and ego that I feel. I think Rahma talked about this earlier, where humility is really important. Being humble in what you do. And if you're just not humble, you have such a big ego, such big pride that you feel like, your fellow countrymen cannot share some nuggets with you, or cannot, maybe give you advice on something like that. That is really frowned upon. So I wouldn't say that, the support is lacking. I think there's a lot of support that's available for the local tech companies. But are they willing to be humble and have that humility to just say, you know what, let's collaborate? I mean, like, I'll give you an example. For us, is the Gambia is really not welcoming to anybody that's in tech, and this is a fact. If you're in tech, you come in here, you try to, you looked at as you're trying to take over. You looked at as, you get fought for contracts, whatever. I'll give you an example. Once we went to bid for a contract to pick up the bid documents. Well, actually, I think it was submitting the bid, and not understanding how this system really works. You have to put like this 2% bid percentage or whatever it is, and we miscalculated the cost. So can you believe that most of those tech companies that were there, they were sitting there with calculators to see if there was an error in our submission, just to kind of eliminate PointClick. And when our guys walked into the door, everybody started whispering, "Ooh, PointClick's here, PointClick's here." So like, I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, we came to the Gambia, we invested, we built a first innovation hub for you. We did a lot of these things, we didn't ask for any contract or any bids. But then we are being fought by the community, and it's just like heartbreaking to see. So Mohammed, I'm not going to stretch it, but just to tell you, there are a lot of people that want to lend a hand. There are a lot of smart people in technology. I think Pierre is on here as well, that we all want to come in and contribute. But there's just this, there's this stiffness within the community that's kind of, where we are trying to, just kind of contribute the way we can to help each other out. But it's just the friction, I think. So for me, like, I'm just like, okay, I'll just hold back and just try to take it easy until I'm because I think there's like an initiation period. Maybe you have to wait a year or 2 years or 3 years until people start to accept you. And I feel like now we're kind of making traction. We're being accepted. Okay, yeah, PointClick is now one of us. But in the beginning, you better come with your shield. Otherwise, you're going to go home looking like a Swiss cheese. But I think the support is there. I don't think it's lacking. We just have to be a little bit more receptive to people and allow us, just to collaborate. We're all here to make it better. We're not here to try to make any other companies not be successful. So that is my experience. And I know other people that came in here in the tech ecosystem have similar experiences as well. But maybe it's not there anymore. I don't know. But I think that is something that we need to address.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would say the private sector, for the smaller businesses and the startups, what I'm starting to see is they're collaborating more. So that's a positive. There's a lot of new, young, bright minds building these innovative businesses, and their ideas are really good. But from what I've noticed, the public sector, however, can be a bit challenging to navigate. And also, some of the big tech giants that we have may also be trying to monopolize, on certain services that they're providing. So those could be some challenges and barriers that might be hard to navigate. But I think even Muhammad Ali, as he posed this question, I believe even since he's in the building with GAIPA, I think there are certain things that also could help out. What is the government doing to facilitate, businesses that are in tech and even small businesses in general? Because if we even look at other countries, there's a lot of funds that new businesses can make use of to sustain themselves and at least to get themselves off the ground. But a lot of businesses in Gambia sometimes have to hide under the radar and maybe get involved in illegal practices just so they're not heavily taxed and so they can make it, because the government itself is not giving them any tax breaks. But when other big investors come in with all the money that that can pay for taxes, they give those guys the tax holidays. So we're promoting foreign investment, but we're trying to say we don't want illegal migration from the Gambia. But what are we doing to help the youth, to develop their businesses and create employment? So what policies are there? And I think that's a homework I'll give Muhammad Ali, since he's in the same building with GAIPA. But those are just something. I think even Pierre mentioned it before, and even Malik, infrastructure. So what's the foundation that would help to facilitate all of these things so that people can be more relaxed, can feel like they can collaborate, feel like they're not threatened. So I think some part of it is the environment that they're situated in. But as I said, the mindset is shifting, mindset is changing, because a lot of the old people are dying. So that's the new people have to come in. So now we are getting to be the old ones, and then the young ones are coming up as well. So I think there's definitely hope. So don't worry, Muhammad Ali. I think there will be. We'll make sure everyone is, as you can see, even with this tech talks that we have, people are leaving time out of their busy schedules to come and talk to us from wherever they are. So I think there is the want, and as we said, we'll find a way to make it easier, and we'll work on the challenges that people are facing, and hopefully, if we can minimize those, good things can come out of it. And Pierre said, can you each share your favorite leadership book and how that has helped shape your journey? And also, Pierre says, all facts, Malik, 100. Okay, so yeah.
So I might have to drop off soon, so let me just answer Pierre's question. So sure. I have two books. My favorite one is by Brian Tracy, No Excuses. And And it really puts the responsibility on the individual, where, you know, we always try to find limitations on what we can do, what we can't do. So I read that book once a week. Well, now I do more audiobooks than anything. And then the other one, it's by, I think it's Marshall Goldstein, which is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it just kind of gives you a perspective of sometimes you can do certain things and be successful at it, and you know, just because you've done it before that way doesn't mean you'll be successful the next time. So, you know, it's a really fantastic book. So for me, those are the two books that you know, I read. I mean, annually I have like 3 books I always read, and Think and Grow Rich is one of them by Napoleon Hill, of course. No Excuses, and What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Thank you, Malik. And since you're about to log off, if you want to share some words before you log off, you know, we'll give you the floor, and then, yeah, so you can kill 2 birds.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks again, Seren, for the invite. And it's a pleasure meeting you, Oli and Rahma. I think this is a great platform where not only are we having, you know, nice conversations, but we're also creating a networking platform for us that didn't know each other before, right? So definitely we'll be connecting more with, you know, Oli, where we can do a lot more out there. And you know, just word of encouragement for you, Seren. Keep up the good work. This is a great conversation. Hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get more people to attend. I know Saturdays are a bit, you know, tricky.
Yeah.
I do apologize for being late, but my wife was supposed to travel back to Spain today, and she's actually right here because she missed her flight. But sad, but I'm also happy because she gets to spend more time. Sad because my kids are expecting her home. So I'm like, where do you cut that cord, right?
Can we see her before you go?
Yeah, sure. There she is. Say hi, Awa. They want to see you.
Look.
You missed your flight.
Oh, hold on. I'm on. Let me take the speaker off.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Mary,
Hey.
we had to miss your flight.
You missed your flight.
I know I did.
Hmm.
So good seeing you guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
But it's another conversation about
Having
the
a good day.
inefficiencies of flight because of the inefficiencies of Gambia. Yeah, COVID testing, you know. Yeah, it's guys. I mean, look, this is our country. Okay, we can bitch and complain about this stuff. Sorry for my language, about all this stuff, but it is going to require us, you know, like the Olays. You know, I know the U.S. is great and all this stuff, but at some point we have to really think about how do we take the knowledge that we've acquired abroad and try to come in. Yes, it's difficult as hell to try to fix some of this stuff, and it's probably going to take years. But can we build that foundation for the generation to come, at least build on top of? And I think that's the takeaway of some of these open tech conversations. It's not just about tech, but it's about, you know, as a home builder or as a developer or whatever, you can try to build a 5-story building all you want. It's going to fall apart every time if that foundation is not solid. And I think Gambia is at that stage where, okay, you look back 50 years, why is it that I came home 27 years later and there's still dirt on the streets? Because that foundation is missing. It's not strong enough. We have to strengthen that foundation. Otherwise, every building, every story that we put on, eventually is going to collapse. And that is why we're suffering. But it's going to take all of us as individuals, as, you know, experts in our areas, to really come back and really think about how do we contribute our knowledge, no matter how painful it is. Every day, you know, they're like, oh, you hate coming to Gambia. Yes, I do. But I still come back because I feel like, you know, if we don't build that, if we don't try to at least, you know, create that foundation for the next generation to make it better. So I just urge all of you, it's not just about getting on the calls for 1 hour and then we take off. But let's really start to see what were the takeaways, what can I contribute, how can I help out in my areas, and let's fix these issues, because I don't think it's difficult at all. I think it's just we just have a bunch of knuckleheads that just they're just unwilling to change, and we have to, you know. So Olay, pleasure to meet you. Ramu, you say you don't want to move anywhere else but stay in California, Gambia. Look, I'm right here looking at the ocean. It's just like California. It's beautiful. So, you know, we can create a California right here in Gambia.
All right, let's do it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for your time sitting. Good
Yeah,
job.
thank you, Malik. Appreciate that.
All right, bye.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we got 8 more minutes. I think we'll take one more question. If anyone has a question, we'll take one more question, and then we'll give closing remarks, and then everybody else can get back to their Saturdays. And trust me, sacrificing Saturdays, I know it's not easy, but we really appreciate it. I mean, I really appreciate it because I'm also getting my head bit off from my wife. You know, so yeah. Oh, you messed up all the Saturdays, but told her it's just an hour and a half tops. So, but I appreciate it. But I think that I chose it because Sunday would be so difficult since it's right before Monday. You need to wind down. Some people have to iron their clothes, their uniforms that they have to wear, because when you wear suits, either you go into dry cleaning or you got to pick it up. So there's a lot of work that goes on Sundays, and you just want to relax and then start on Monday. But Saturday is like you've probably slept in Friday, woke up Saturday morning. So yeah, so it's like a day where I could just steal 1 hour. So that's why I chose it. Yeah, so any questions from the participants? If there are no questions from the participants, I'll ask a question. So moving up in tech, basically. So we have a lot of new startups that are surfacing in especially in Gambia. And as you know, there are lots of international organizations that are sponsoring these tech companies, getting them coaching, training, and so on and so forth. So what are some of the technical and soft skills that you would recommend that these different tech CEOs have under their belt to give them, I guess, a good fighting chance and good, because a lot of the a lot of the new businesses now, the internet is so open that you can do business globally. So a lot of companies can go global easier than before, where you had to establish physical offices, right? So you can just offer your products or your services worldwide and be in any country and get paid, and then as long as you take care of your taxes. So what are some of the technical and soft skills that you would recommend that these CEOs put on their list to help them grow their businesses or be competitive? Because at some point, who knows, they might want to sell the business and join and work for a company, because companies do get acquired in some instances. So what are some advice? What is some advice that you can give? And I think since we have 4 minutes, this could be the closing. So when you give your answer, just close, and then everybody closes. That way I don't take any more of your time, because maybe husbands are waiting and things. I don't want to be in trouble. So let's, I'll open the floor right there.
I think in terms of like us being in this like global world now, that's an advantage, right? Like, because a couple of years ago, it's like you did not really have like LinkedIn. You didn't have like all these social media or collaboration tools that are out there, right? Like, and now, and of course, like with COVID, that kind of like even made things like move a lot faster. So I think in terms of CEOs, I would say the most critical thing is being consistent in terms of what you deliver, because we've seen that all the time, like where a new business starts, they have like great products, and as the years goes by, the product kind of like declines. I'll say like having like the consistency to be able to also compete in the global world, because like what's stopping us as Gambians? we're very, very smart. We're very hardworking. So we could definitely compete in the global stage, but it's just kind of making sure it's consistent. We have like that quality there. The next thing I'll say is like collaboration. There's people out there that are willing to collaborate or exchange ideas. So just look into not just your network, but outside. Like LinkedIn is a great tool. You just go in there and find out like what are people working on, and they don't have to be in the Gambia. They could be anywhere, and just forming that, building, like being intentional in building that network that you could actually tap into when the time comes. So for me, I think those are kind of like the things I'll say are probably critical, like for in terms of the global stage. In terms of closing, I'll just say thank you so much, Celine. Like Malik said, this is not just an opportunity for us to exchange ideas, but also to form networks. And so I'm looking forward to attending these and hearing like what other folks have. And Khadija, I'll definitely, sorry, I don't know why I keep calling you Khadija, Rahma. Rahma, I'll definitely want to keep in touch because it seems like you just one state away from me in LA. So definitely we'd like to connect offline and see how we can.
Combat sister, by the way, right?
What's that?
Are you combat sister?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I never met you in person before, so this is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just say keep what you're doing, Celine. I'm sure it's not gonna be easy. Like we're trying to like coordinate and get everybody on the same thing. So this is like a great initiative, especially for Gambia, like trying to tap around the world in terms of all the skill sets that we have and trying to bring people in one platform. So thank you so much for inviting me.
You're most welcome, my big sister. By the way, you know, Olay and Rahmatullah, you don't know each other, but yeah, but you probably met without knowing each other.
Really?
Hey, Sering,
Yeah.
real quick, this is
Yes.
Pierre. Just wanted to kind of add on to what Rahma and Olay had mentioned, and I think it's fantastic to really hear from them. It's a breath of fresh air. I think one of the things that I would say for some of these businesses and I guess the CEOs in Gambia that are starting these companies, I think most of them need to take time to understand the business of business. And what do I mean by that, right? They need to understand why they're in business. They need to understand their competitors. They need to understand the market. They need to understand their customer. And they need to really zone in on service. And I think if they keep some of those things in mind, you know, those are some of the, I would say, foundational pieces that every CEO, at least that I've spoken to, tend to kind of lean in on, right? Because without those things, you'll be in business just to be in business, basically. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, hopefully for the young CEOs out there and the startups.
Thank you, Pierre. Appreciate that. That's our brother, Pierre Davis. Yes, and good thing is, you know, most of the attendees, I'll have an email for them. So I'll be sending an email and sharing some LinkedIn profiles so everyone can try to see if they can, you know, if they want to get connected. And then that way, at the end of the day, you know, when we're big enough, you never know what else we can do together. So let's just keep at it. I'll let Rahmatullah do her closing and give me some feedback, and then we will call it a day.
Yeah, so for me, are we going back to the question that you asked?
Yes,
for the books, or
yes,
is
please.
it 2 books, or just the question about leadership, the skill sets? Which one are we? focusing on. I noticed like you ask a question,
Yes.
but a different question was asked to Malik. So I don't know if Malik, that one question was just for Malik, and then
No, that was just, well, I mean, it's just up to you.
It was for
Feel
for
free.
everyone.
Yeah,
It
but
was
feel
a
free
both
to
question.
answer whatever you want to answer. We're yours.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll just go quickly on both. I guess I read a lot of leadership books, but one of my two favorite ones that I always read at least once or twice a year. One of them is The Alchemist. I'm sure you all know about that book. I really love that book. I try to read it at least once a year. Another one is 101 Leadership by John C. Maxwell. The reason I like that book is because it has a lot of little things that you can do. For example, it has a lot of like work things like you can basically in terms of working on your character as a person in general, or just advancing your leadership skills in general. It has questions like asking people that are closest to you what are some of your weaknesses and some of your biggest strengths and things like that. So I always ask about the weaknesses because I feel like that's something that I can work on, right? So like for the people that are closest to me, I ask that like every 6 months, name 3 things that you think I can improve on, or 3 things that you think are really my weaknesses, so I can work on them. So so those are, like those are some of my favorite books. But as far as the question that Olay answered, I think that emotional intelligence, we don't seem to really talk about that, but that's a really big one. I feel like when it comes to leadership and like starting your own company and things like that, I think a lot of times people are lacking that in so many different areas in life, and it's a skill set that's really, really, really relevant in life in general, in terms of success, in terms of just like making it in everything that you do. It's a very important component to have. It's like self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. That's like a big, big, big thing. So I think more people need to focus on emotional intelligence. It's really, really important. And again, one of the things, like I said, communication is a really, really big one. That's like the baseline of everything. You need to learn how to communicate. You need to be able to talk to people. You need to know what's going on. You need to be able to just have that writing skill. I'm not just talking about just opening your mouth and talking, but in terms of what you are communicating verbally and what you are writing down, and just everything that has to do with communication. You have to have a strong communication skills. You have to have logical reasoning and troubleshooting skills in technology. If you are lacking that reasoning and troubleshooting skills, good luck to you in technology. That's like one of the number one skills, the ability to be able to think logically. Cybersecurity, that's a big one. And the ability to be able to like troubleshoot and apply a solution to a basis of your problem in cybersecurity. That's really, really big. The ability to be able to research and learn new information. You have to be willing to learn new information. I don't know how many times I stress that to some of the junior engineers that I mentor. That's right. That's a really, really big deal. You have to be passionate about it. The ability to learn is really, really a big deal. The ability to be a self-starter and just work independently and work overtime. You have to be willing to put in hours and hours and hours. If you are not that motivated and that determined, then don't start a business, because it's not going to work. Because the first couple of years, you have to put in hours. You have to put in work, Stop making excuses and just go in and just do the damn thing, you know, like otherwise it's not going to happen. So that's a really big deal. What else? Just the ability just to be a go-getter, just lead the projects, take it in your hands, take matters in your own hands and run with it, you know, like don't take no for an answer, just do it, just do it. Just be a Nike and do it. Otherwise it's you're gonna have a really hard time. We all know that businesses fail within the first 5 years, you know, like that, having that drive, having that motivation to just like learn and not say no, not take no for an answer, and just keep going and doing things, doing your research. You have to be really, really determined. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for you. So, but yeah, that's my conclusion. And Sirin, I'm really proud of you for putting this together. Thank you so much. I learned so much from everybody on the panel. Olay, I'm so glad I finally got to meet you. And I would love to join more of these. This is really fun. And thank you so much for inviting me. And for all the people in the audience, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you all. Thank you all. As they say in Gambia, nyoko boka. And anyone that doesn't know the meaning of that, rewind the video and look it up. That's what logic and what troubleshooting.
Right.
Yeah, well, thank you all. Really, thanks for sparing your time, taking your precious time, and giving it to me. And I won't take more of it. So, you know, on that note, thanks to all the panelists, thanks to all the participants for the brilliant questions and the lovely conversations. As I said, we will share LinkedIn contacts with everybody who's trying to get to know each other, and we can build a community from there. I see ITAX present and ITC Mange. Thanks for coming around. You know, we got Gain. Thank you, Gain. We got someone trying to join right now. I'll accept them, but then they'll just hear thank you. And so, but yeah, hopefully, as I said, we have a lot more coming. August, we have 4 weeks, 4 talks in August. September's also coming. So yes, I'll be sending out, you know, some, you know, panel requests. So if anyone wants to come back, of course, you know, it's every Saturday. So even if a panel is booked and you feel like you want to come, you're always, always, always welcome to come and join or listen or just ask a question. So eventually, you know, lots of things can develop because there's some ideas brewing. But God willing, we'll all get there. And if anyone needs anything, just send me a message, and I'll do my best to see how to link or get a solution. Thanks again, and see you again next Saturday. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.